Hello everyone and welcome to our presentation. We are Angelina Espadei, Maria Jose Liscano and Santiago Garces, and we're going to talk about the School of the Future. So, for this presentation, we're going to talk about the characteristics of the school, more specifically about the aims and vision of the school, the principal philosophy of education that inspired us, the admission process, the roles of the staff and teachers, parents, and an explanation of who are the students that we expect will attend this school. Then we're going to talk about the structures and processes that the school will have. Here we're going to point out the design of the learning spaces, the materials and curriculum needed, and finally the evaluation and assessment system. To begin with, we want to highlight that the urge of changing the educational system as it is right now is very important and very real. Through some flaws in education that we have respectively seen as we grew up, we came up with ideas of how to solve these flaws or inefficiencies, and that's the base of what the School of the Future needs to be and looks like in our perspective. As a school, we understand that everyone is different and that the human being is by itself a very complex entity. Every child offers their own unique selves, develops and learns more upon the things they feel most comfortable with. So, as a school, we want them to grow in a safe place where they can be themselves, learn to live and interact within a community made up of people just as different, unique, and valuable as they are. Rather than giving them an order of the day or a formal lecture, what we really want to explore and to propose is for the children to discover their own paths and ways of learning. Our principal aim then is to give a creative learning experience so all the students have the space to learn at their own pace, work on the way they feel more engaged and manageable so that the innate talent that each student has is used. The ultimate goal of the school is to give them a place to enhance their full potential and grow within a context that, although facilitates a lot of things, challenges them as an individual and a community. Considering the aims and vision of the school, the pioneer that gave us the main ideas is Maria Montessori's philosophy of education. It is her multidisciplinary approach to education that we really want to incorporate in our school. As she managed to do, we want to develop an educational method designed to educate the whole child, physically, mentally, emotionally, and morally. We also want to focus on the student because we know that the child possesses an interior power to learn by him or herself. Really, the actual educational system underestimates their capacity to learn something by their own, so we really want to potentiate that. And also, we will focus on the influence that the design of the learning spaces have on the child. Like Montessori, we want to provide the environment in which human development takes place. Like she did, we want to develop a highly structured and especially prepared classroom environment, where we are going to design a didactic learning apparatus and materials fit to the children according to their age.
Now, we're going to talk about some characteristics of our school that we find relevant in order to provide the best education possible. First of all, our school would be for children between 5 and 10 years, for boys and girls, and it would be in Bogota, Colombia. At the time of the admission, both parents and children will be rated. The admission consists of a test that will determine how engaged are the parents with the ideals and values of the school, and the other test for the children consists of getting to know them better, their abilities, and their interests. So now, taking into account the importance of the role of the adults, we think that is relevant to talk about teachers and parents. So, teachers' role is the role of an observer who can guide children if they need it, but to encourage them to develop autonomy. And the role of the parents are required to be engaged with all the children's activities. So they have to be on the same page of all the values, exercises, and objectives that the curriculum has planned and wants to aim. For this to happen, parents should receive a special training on how to help their children to really understand what they are being taught. So now our last characteristic and a really relevant one is the design of the learning spaces. We think this is really important because in these spaces is where children are going to spend a lot of time and are going to learn, and so they need to have an adequate space. So, with that being said, we think that the educational method of Montessori is a really adequate one. So, students should have classrooms with didactical materials, tables, and chairs that fit their size, and to have open spaces so that they can move freely and that they can search for themselves, they can be independent, and so that they can learn from themselves but with the guidance of the teacher.
In this school, we are going to have different materials that are going to be used in order to let children develop their own abilities and different senses. This will be manipulative, sensory, and playful materials made of wood and metal that allow children to perform exercises gradually up to the greatest difficulty. To this, we are going to have different technologies. Now we are going to talk about the curriculum. To this, we are going to have different ages to different curriculums. Children between 5 and 7, we plan to develop their motor skills, engage with their environment, learn to interact and share with others. Thanks to the design of the learning spaces, the children will explore their environment, absorb information from it, construct their concept of reality. Between 8 and 10, children will have the possibility to get access to different electronic devices in order to provide them more information and let them interact with different computer programs that are made solely for their learning. Teachers will be with the children all the time in case there is any doubt about anything. The idea of this autonomous and independent way of learning is going to be organized as follows. The grade to which each student is going to be divided by will depend on the year they were born. Regardless of the age, the idea is that at the start of every day, the teacher of the respective grade will explain to the student the themes and area of knowledge that they are going to focus on that specific day. Then the teacher will show the student that the materials that are available for their use and will be available for any question. The children at the end of the selected days will be expected to explain and share what they have learned and practiced. They can choose to share this with the rest of the students or only with the teacher. Now we are going to talk about evaluation and assessment. Since every student learns the same thing in very independent different way, the idea is to evaluate not how they got to learn something, but to evaluate the comprehension that each student has upon the theme. Not by grades, but by completing goals each student has depending on their abilities. Now, what are the key drivers of change in order to create this school? We all agree that the key drivers of change are mainly political and social. We all see that the actual society needs the independence that we want to achieve in children in order to grow their potential we know each one has. From our learning experience, we also affirm that the idea of discovering things for yourself will help the children to become future leaders and people who can contribute to their own countries and society.